It's time for the Kim Hammer Show, where you'll learn how your state government affects you, your family, and community. Here's Kim Hammer.
Good afternoon on a cloudy, overcast Saturday. Looks like temperatures around 74 degrees, though, so it's a beautiful day if we can get some activities in before the rain comes. We are going to jump right in it today because we've got a really good program lined up for you. You'll be much smarter by the time you finish than you were when you started, so you can spread the word to your friends to join us on 101.1 FM that you're listening to us on now, or they can go up to our Facebook page, The Kim Hammer Show, and join us live on Facebook. Want to start off by thanking our sponsors, Everett GMC Buick down in Saline County there at Elko Exit and Highway 5. They've actually got some excellent deals going on right now. Do not believe this financial crisis that we're going through right now because of the COVID-19 is going to last forever, and they've got some excellent deals on vehicles. If you're looking for a great GMC product, go down there and see Dwight and Susie and their staff at Everett GMC Buick in Saline County, right there, easily accessible on I-30 and Alcoa Exit. And then also Edwards Food Store. I was in there again this morning doing my stock up of our supplies for our home, and I found everything that I needed, and including toilet paper. Found everything that we needed at Edwards Food Store. They're located here in central Arkansas, over in eastern Arkansas, and they're easy to find. I'll tell you what I like about them, too. You can send in your order online. They'll have it waiting for you when you get there. They will help sack your groceries. They have very clean stores. They've got great product line. Everything is fresh and ready to go out the door to your kitchen. And so I'd encourage you to take a look at and support Edwards Food Stores. The other sponsor of our program is the Baxley Penfield Mowdy Realtors down in Saline County. They're there at Spring Hill and Highway 5. Tom and Lance and Charles and Lane, all those guys down there, they're all ready to jump in to help you. And I know some people are maybe a little bit fearful right now of the housing market. In reality, it's a great time to get into the housing market, and they can help you out with commercial, rental, or residential property, either one. You feel free to give those folks down at Baxley Penfield Mowdy a call, and they can take care of your realtor needs here in central Arkansas. And then longtime sponsor, Duck's Garage. Great time to get your truck or car or vehicle worked on. Down there, they've got room, they've got time for you. Family-owned business, they will take care of you. Those folks know how to get your vehicle running right. Today, we have on the show, we will have on the show, joining me here in a little bit, Jodianne Tripp, who is with the Hospital Association here in Arkansas. And we're going to talk about Arkansas hospitals, where they are, prepped up, ready to go for the wave that may be coming. And we're going to talk about all things positive about the hospital network here in Arkansas. And Jodianne, as I mentioned, works for the Arkansas Hospital Association. She is a wealth of knowledge as far as talking about the hospitals. We did have to change our schedule a little bit from what I had put out on social media. French Hill will be joining us at the bottom of the hour after the break. He's in a committee meeting, but he is going to be joining us around 12:35. And we've already gotten some questions in, and we'll try to get to them to ask French about some of the things that you've already sent in some questions regarding. But he'll be with us at the bottom of the hour. One other side note I'd like to make you mindful of, the church that I pastor, which is Saline Missionary Baptist Church down in a community called Tull, just outside of Benton. We are respecting civil authority in the request not to join together in groups of greater than 10. And so we have suspended meeting together as a church family until we get to all clear. But what I'm doing is on Sundays here at noon, I am presenting the message to our congregation, welcome you to join in each Sunday for the next several Sundays, as we will be meeting as a church family via social media and this radio station, and that'll be tomorrow at noon. Before we're joined online by Jodianne Tripp, let me just tell you about what we did last night about 12:20 in the morning. As you may be aware, the legislature was called into session by Governor Hutchinson to address funding shortages that are being created in our state budget because of the COVID-19 crisis. And I'll just lay the groundwork a little bit, and then I'll get Jodianne on the phone, and I'll come back and finish this up, hopefully at the bottom of the hour or at the end of the hour when we get done talking to French. But several years ago, there was this thing called the Revenue Stabilization Act that was passed here in the Arkansas, and it is a great thing. Other states that do not have it are deep in debt, and they do not have a balanced budget. What the Revenue Stabilization Act did was required that we as Arkansans, we as legislators in the administrative branch, have to have a balanced budget every time we come together. And it would be similar to this. We can't spend any more than we take in. And over the years, as Arkansas has enjoyed an economic growth, part of what happens is that through conservative budgeting and trying to manage the expenses and keep the growth of government to a minimum, and understanding to my solid conservative friends that are listening, that is always a battle, and that's always a point of friction between the administrative branch and the legislative branch, and sometimes even within the legislative branch, various groups that make up the legislators, both House and senators. And so we have to work through getting to a point to where when we finish our business and we walk out of there, we have a balanced budget. And over the last several years, I like to use the analogy of when Joseph was in Egypt, 7 years of plenty, getting ready for 7 years of famine. We have been building healthy financial positioning for the state of Arkansas. We have a reserve fund that cannot be touched except for by legislative process, and right now it has grown to about $150 million. And then there's another, what we'll call pot of money, that is called the surplus funds. And the surplus funds accumulate because our growth revenue has exceeded what we have forecasted, and because our budgeting processes have been held pretty tight. And as a result of that, we have in that account $173 million in what is called surplus funds. And this week, what we did as a legislature, we were called into session, a special session by the governor, because with the economic turndown being created by the COVID-19, as you all know, it's an economic downturn right now because businesses are not be able to function, and therefore the revenues that would normally be coming in from those businesses are on a downturn for the moment. And then also considering that the governor extended and matched what they were doing at the federal level, they have extended for individuals, not for corporations, but for individuals, the ability to extend paying their personal taxes until July 15th. And when you combine those two things together, the economic downturn that's coming as a result of the COVID-19 experience that we're going through, and pushing off the payment of personal taxes until July 15th, that accumulates to about a 350 cumulative shortfall in our budget. And because we as a state are a balanced budget state, it was necessary for us to come in and to address that issue because we can't finish June 30th in the hole, which means that agencies are going to have to cut their budget, which means that we had to adjust our revenue forecast for what we expected to be coming in that now we do not see coming in because of those two events occurring at the same time. And fortunately, because of good, strong economic times and because of good, tight managing of the budget to a degree, and we always fight over that terminology, but for the moment, because there was minimal growth projected in the size of government, we were able to accumulate $173 million in those surplus funds. In the old days, that money used to go to what's called general improvement funds, but that was dealt away with when those funds were abused. And so we changed the process a few years ago to where there was more transparency and greater accountability. And so what we've done as a legislative branch, working with the administrative branch, with the governor, is we've come in and over the last 3 days, that $175 million in surplus funds has been redirected to where it can fill the budget holes that were created by the COVID-19 adjustments and the decrease in income that would have come in from those taxes until July 15th to help get us through the last 3 months of this year. Now, we are going to be going into the fiscal session April 8th, and I'm sure that there'll be adjustments to what this is a game changer that we're going through, and we will be going through some adjustments as because we've already had the budget hearings and already had pretty well set what the next Revenue Stabilization Act would look like that would carry us through the general session next year. But as we know, everybody's world has been turned upside down in the last 2 weeks. And for the next 90 days, we've got to let the ship level and we've got to get pointed back in the right direction. And so we've already had the budget hearings. The concept of what the Revenue Stabilization Act would look like going into next year has changed. And when we come into the budget hearing starting in April 8th, there'll be good, hard, honest talks about agencies needing to, revise their budgets and revise their spending. And we'll need to be able to take a look at the forecast. And there's an actuary that is hired by the state of Arkansas that deals on a global network, and they actually contribute to helping project what those forecasts look like. And we will just have to get through the next few weeks until we go in the budget session and see how the new forecast is going to look. The good thing about living in the state of Arkansas is that we are required by law to have a balanced budget. And so if cuts need to be made, they'll be made. And we'll just have to see how that looks and plays out as we come back as legislators for the budget session beginning on April 8th. All right, joining us online, and we'll get back to that a little bit more later if we have time, but I wanted to give you an idea. We finished up about 12:20 this morning. Governor signed the bill around 12:45, and just thank God we had that $175 million to help fill the holes and be able to keep the ship level here in Arkansas. It's better than a lot of other states are in right now. All right, we're being joined online by Jodianne Tripp, who is with the Hospital Association. Jodianne, we have you on the line.
Hi, Senator Hammer. Yes, you do.
Very good. Thank you for taking time away from your family today to visit with us a little bit about hospitals here in Arkansas. Why don't you just kind of give the listeners a little bit of a comfort level about you other than just your name. Share with them anything you'd like to talk about as far as your family. I know you got great kids, and I know they're athletic because I watch you on Facebook and post those pictures all the time. So just take a minute to make people feel a bit more comfortable about who we're visiting with.
Sure. I'm Jodianne Tripp, and I'm the Executive Vice President of the Arkansas Hospital Association. I think most people are familiar with the Hospital Association, but we represent 100 member institutions around the state. So your hospital there in Saline County is a member, of course. So we get to do advocacy work. We do scientific research. We have compliance and legal capacity. We can sometimes do group purchasing to help some of our small rural hospitals buy things in bulk at a better rate. We have a whole quality team that's just absolutely amazing that helps our hospitals get through some of the minutia and the differences in federal reporting and state reporting and all kinds of things to make sure that when you're a patient in our hospital, we've got all of our systems in place to keep you safe and healthy while you're there. We do fun things. We get to participate in baby birthing things with the March of Dimes. And then, of course, we are your acute care centers who take care of patients every single day, and we take care of their families and their communities. So right now, in the middle of this COVID-19 crisis, it seems like we're doing less acute care, and we are on purpose. And we're getting ready for the surge of patients that we think are going to come in. So we're constantly planning and preparing and trying to address the needs of individual communities. I tend to think that community hospitals in almost all places where they're located are either the top 1, 2, or 3 employer. So we also keep up with things that relate to business law and employment law and those kinds of things, in addition to what we do to take care of you when you need us for an emergency or an acute care issue. And you're right. I do have 3 amazing kids and a pretty okay husband. I hope he's not listening right now because I don't want him to get the big head. And they are all athletes and they're smart. And more importantly, they know and love God. And that's what we've all got to do right now.
There you go. That's what joins us together right now, especially in times like this. So let me ask you, and one thing people may not realize when you say hospital association, they think, Baptist, St. Vincent, Hart, Ash, Saline Memorial, Jefferson Regional, but you also incorporate some of the like Bridgeway and Rivendell, don't you? I mean, the psychiatric treatment hospitals as well.
Yes. And not only that, we represent Arkansas Hospice. And right now, it's really important to take precious care of all the hospice workers and our folks who are in and outside of homes taking care of people, because we understand that while COVID-19 is the forefront on everybody's mind and getting prioritization, lots of other healthcare needs are still going on at the same time. So you are absolutely correct that we represent freestanding inpatient psychiatric facilities and hospice too.
I was talking to one of my colleagues yesterday, James Sturch from up in Batesville, and some of the other ones that have hospitals in their region. And one of the things that seems to be a common thread among all of us is the challenges that hospitals are facing right now, that why they gear up and prepare for what is predicted to be a wave of COVID patients that has actually put some strain and stresses on them in other areas, because elective surgeries are being discouraged, and yet they also have to deal, and this was something somebody was sharing with me last night, how are they preparing for COVID-19 patients, but yet at the same time they're dealing with the hearts, the strokes, the heart bypasses, the appendix that ruptures and everything. Talk about the dynamics of the hospitals and how are they being challenged while they wait for what is projected to come, but they take care of the urgent population, but they're building a backlog of patients who have elective surgeries. And how is that being balanced among all the hospitals in the state?
It is a very difficult balance. So it doesn't seem natural for anybody in the healthcare profession, for physicians in their clinics or our hospitals or outpatient care, anything that we're doing, even urgent but not emergent care, we're really asking people to postpone that if they can. We hope that people are in contact with their nurses and their physicians so that they can make an appropriate determination about how to put that off. But you're absolutely right, Senator Hammer. One of the hardest things for hospitals to do, and one of the things that we have to do to prepare for COVID, is to reduce our average census, which means less people in the hospital so that we can prepare for COVID-infected folks when they do get in. And that puts a huge financial stress on us. So elective surgeries and elective procedures are not, cosmetic things at all. Some people who we're postponing have very, very serious conditions. It's just that they can wait 2 or 3 weeks, we hope, or 3 or 4 weeks, we hope, to have that procedure to make them better. An elective procedure might be considered a hip or a knee replacement. It's not something that's incredibly life-threatening, but it sure does mess with your quality of life. So those are the kinds of things that we are having to postpone. Lots of people don't know, but on average in Arkansas, right under 25% of a hospital's revenue is actually related to those elective procedures. So in the middle of a crisis like this, when you're telling people you need them out of the hospital, which means that there's not reimbursement for that, you also have no reimbursement from the elective procedures. And then you've got, what do I do with not enough of the other things in the hospital to help us financially? So we actually sent a letter to the governor and said, okay, if we just eliminated for the hospitals who are not UAMS and Children's, and it's not that we don't want to take care of UAMS and Children's, we do, but their payment mechanism is very different from other hospitals, so we excluded their calculations and their averages for this. But we determined that if hospitals lose 24% of their revenue as on average from these elective procedures, every 7 days, that's $26 million.
Across the board,
So,
across all hospitals,
across
or just
all
UAMS
hospitals.
and Children's?
No, excluding UAMS and Children's. So all the other hospitals in the state average together every 7 days, like not average together, but collectively. So you're adding Baptist and Saline and everywhere else. You're adding all those hospitals together. Every 7 days, 24% of their revenues they're losing by not doing those elective procedures. It's $26 million. And let me say this too. We're not doing the elective procedures in preparation only for the patient. We're also not doing it because, and Senator Hammer, you and I have talked about this, we are really doing everything we can to protect our healthcare workers. And the supply of personal protective equipment called PPE has been low. So if you're doing an elective procedure that requires things that we know we're going to need for COVID patients, whether it's anesthesia machines or even gowns and masks for nurses and doctors who are taking care of you, those things have to be preserved as much as possible so that we're ready to tackle the issue when COVID-infected folks come to see us. In addition, we are serious about social distancing. Social distancing is incredibly important to us. The best thing anybody can do in the community to protect your healthcare workers and each other is to follow the social distancing guidelines, as hard as it is. My 15-year-old is super unhappy with me and all those social distancing guidelines we've got around this house. But truthfully, if you've got a loved one having an elective procedure, you're going to be in the waiting room with other people. And likely that's going to be more than 10 people. And we want to reduce your exposure to disease. And how we do that is we don't set up opportunities for people to congregate. So that elective procedure procrastination, if you will, is twofold. Threefold. It's to protect the patient and the patient's family. It's to protect the healthcare worker while the healthcare workers are working on you. And it's to preserve that really, really necessary protective equipment that we're going to need.
You know, one thing I won't say which one, but I was talking to somebody at one of the hospitals, and they were talking about how that they are overstaffed right now, and some of the spinoff of not having the elective surgeries or just doing the normal cases, these hospitals are having to carry the normal staff levels that they have to carry as though they were full or operating at regular capacity. I would think in part because they are preparing for, what's coming with the COVID-19 wave, but also that when it's over and these elective surgery positions come back in, they don't want to have to rehire people and restaff. And I guess what I'm asking is that kind of creates a critical perfect storm level 2 or 3 weeks out. But I think it's important for people to understand that the hospitals have to carry on the normal expenses, kind of like the schools are having to do right now without the students in place. But the responsibilities still go on in order to make those budgets. Is that a fair statement?
That's a very fair statement. And it is absolutely part of this puzzle we're putting together and trying to come up with neat solutions that can solve the problem. We are very enthusiastically optimistic that the president's plan and the SAVES Act and the CARES Act and those things can help hospitals. But those funds are not going to be readily available. It's going to take at least 2, 3, 4 weeks. I think he just signed it yesterday. So by the time we get allocated those funds, Arkansas is likely going to be in the middle of or right on the uptick of the surge we're expecting. We've got to do something to bridge the gap between right now with all the financial stress and the loss that we're experiencing and when those federal options for relief come. Hospitals are pretty good stewards with state tax dollar funding, too. We do the best we can to kind of help that surge and help that capacity by supporting the community where we can. And lots of times when we can receive federal dollars, if there's a match required, hospitals do their very best to help prop up that match with even some of our own revenues.
All right, let me tell you, we got about 2 minutes before we're going to be at the bottom of the hour to take a break for the news. I don't know if you can hold over in case French can't join us at 12:35 when we have a few more minutes. We'll work that out. But one thing I want you to talk about in the last couple of minutes we've got is we got 571 respirators in the state. The governor is working on ordering 500. You know, what people may not realize is that the governor can place an order for something through ADAM and get everything position lined up. But if another state outbids us or somebody's business practices are poor and they decide to pirate those off to somebody else, we're just out of luck. The over 1,000 respirators, will those be distributed throughout the state, or they'll be balanced to wherever the need is based on the need of the population?
So I've got to give major props to the Arkansas Department of Health and the Department of Emergency Medicine and the governor's office. They've been working with us in our regional groups for years preparing for this kind of thing. So we did great with Katrina. We always have pandemic plans in place. So we've got hospitals who are normally competitors working together to figure out, okay, where are we going to need to put those ventilators? What can we use as a ventilator that we haven't been able to use before? We're talking to the VA and National Guard capacity, and we're thinking about using portable ventilators and converting anesthesia machines into them. So we've got a lot of things going regionally so that we can get the equipment and the people to the right place at the right time in the very best manner we can on a regional basis.
All right. Well, just hang on if you can. This is we got Jodianne Tripp with the Arkansas Hospital Association. We're talking about hospitals, the hospital world as it exists in the COVID-19 situation that we're dealing with. We'll come back after the bottom of the hour. I want to thank my sponsors. Everett GMC Buick down at Saline County on Alcoa and I-30 there. Edwards Food Store located throughout central Arkansas and over in east Arkansas. Baxley Penfield Mouty located down in Saline County but can take care of your needs anywhere in the state. And then also Duck's Garage down there on Air Lane Drive in Benton. When we come back, we're going to have Jodianne Tripp with the Arkansas Hospital Association be joined by Congressman French Hill to talk about the package they passed out last night. You're listening to the Kim Hammer Show. See you after the break.
The staff and members of MediShare have something to say to all of our health professionals right now, doctors, nurses, all hospital staff. Thank you. Thanks for what you do and what you may be called on to do in the days ahead. Thank you, first responders. Thank you to shopkeepers and grocers and the men and women working late nights to restock the shelves. Thank you, cashiers and the checkout aisle. Thank you, delivery drivers and factory workers and caretakers for our elderly, for all you're doing to protect them and give them comfort. So many people to thank, more than we can mention, important people who have their own lives, their own families to be concerned about, and what they're doing is a blessing to us. So from the hundreds of staff and more than 400,000 members of MediShare, thank you.
At PI Roofing, our only goal is to properly care for every customer, past, present, and future. In these difficult times we all face, don't let your roof be your concern. Let us take care of that for you, and you will have one less thing to worry about. Contact us today at 707-3551 or piroofing.com and let us know Dave said to call. When we help our clients succeed, we succeed as well. With today's technology, PI Roofing is able to offer state-of-the-art video communication to keep everyone safe. We're turning this crisis into an opportunity by coming up with new ways to connect with our customers to help them solve their problems. Don't let your roof be a concern. Whatever it is, just contact us and we'll do our very best for you. We offer emergency assistance, flexible payment options, video conferencing, non-invasive appointments, express production times, and peace of mind. During the coronavirus pandemic, we are adjusting the way we do business. Contact us today at 707-3551 or piroofing.com and let us know Dave said to call.
Hi, this
Hammer Show on 101.1 FM. The Answer. Watching Facebook Live on the Kim Hammer Show Facebook page, my personal page. Again, a shout out to the sponsors of this program: Everett GMC Buick down in Saline County, Edwards Food Stores in Central Arkansas and Eastern Arkansas, Baxley Penfield Mowdy in Saline County, but can take care of all your realtor needs anywhere in Arkansas, including residential, commercial, or rental properties, and then Duck's Garage down in Benton. Appreciate all those folks, and remind you that tomorrow at noon I'll be back on the radio station here, but I'll be preaching the message to my congregation because we're being responsive to the request of just to be obedient to civil authority that have asked us to practice social distancing and not have groups of 10 or more gathering. So we're going to practice that, and but you can join us tomorrow at noon. I'll be preaching a message from God's Word if you'd like to hear that side of me. All right, so for just a few more minutes, we got Jodianne Tripp, and then Congressman French Hill has called in. He's on the other line. So Jodianne, let me just give you one or two more minutes, if you would. You know, I'm a former medic, okay? And sometimes the former medics or the medics, the fire department, the police, they're actually the frontline crew that comes into first contact with the patient. But the hospital, people are walking up, especially if they're going through the drive-through testing. Talk about the collaborative arrangement between all the provider groups, because this is one thing that it's not time to be territorial. It's time to work together as a team, because that virus doesn't affect individuals, you know, selectively. It gets us all. So talk about that for just a second.
Absolutely. We love our EMTs and paramedics and other folks who are in, you're right, that very front line with patient care. We've been working very collaboratively with them because there are certain things that ambulances, EMTs, paramedics, and others can only do if they actually deliver a patient to the hospital. What we don't need is patients delivered to the hospital that don't need hospital level care. So we're really trying to get creative using telemedicine, telehealth, and some other really nice opportunities so that we can communicate with our EMTs and EMS providers and other folks while they're in the field via telehealth and telemedicine, so that the patient actually gets screened and understands what's happening by a nurse or a doctor within one of our facilities or even somewhere else, so that that information can be relayed to the patient in a way where the patient understands it's not necessary to take up the very, very valuable resource of an ambulance to come to the hospital or to be transported somewhere else, if at the end of the day they're going to be asked to stay home anyway, or if they realize that their medical condition can actually wait. They are definitely front lines in helping us with surge capacity in such a collaborative way. Not only are they helping us, but long-term care facilities are too. The long-term care facilities, nursing homes, and assisted livings actually took the lead on how we screen visitors and how we protect our patients. A lot of times we get fussed at because visitors don't love that they now have a new entrance to come into the hospital, and they feel a little violated when we ask them questions like, hey, where have you traveled? Who have you been hanging out with the last few days? Let me check your temperature. But we do all of those things to make sure we're protecting not only our patients who are inside, but also the community at large. I appreciate you very much for adhering to the advice of our governor and the CDC and others to not congregate in groups of 10 or more. I cannot emphasize enough how important that is, and how that is the very, very best thing we can do for all members of our community right now.
All right. Well, I'm going to wrap it up with you and just say thank you for being on that collaboration among providers. I think there is a great spirit out there. I do think they need to be compensated to their care level equally, and we want to take care of the entire provider chain as far as making sure that they're not stressing out over their finances, because they are putting themselves in harm's way as far as taking care of these individuals. One thing I'd like you to do, Jodianne, if you don't mind, email me where the testing sites are in the hospitals in Arkansas. My webpage will launch April 1st, which is this Tuesday, I think. The Kim Hammer Show website is going to launch sometime on April 1st, and I'd love to get that information up there. So if people want to know where to go get tested, what are some sites close to them, and we'll put the guidelines for, using telemedicine and other means before you go, take up and waste a testing kit. So, all right, very good.
You've got it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Jodianne, for being on. That was Jodianne Tripp with the Arkansas Hospital Association. We may get her back on the show again as this thing plays out. Right now, though, we're going to be joined on the line by Congressman French Hill, who's had a very busy 2-3 weeks. He's always busy, but the last week especially has been kind of intense for him. And so, Congressman, we appreciate you taking time out to join us here on the Kim Hammer Show.
Kim, it's a pleasure to be with you. Thanks for the invitation.
Let's start off by talking, first of all, if you will, and we've got a list of questions. If you'd be willing to take some questions.
Sure.
Let's start off, first of all, by talking about the package that y'all passed. It was a little over, $2.2 trillion relief package?
Right.
Okay. So maybe go into the details, the high-level details of what that bill allows for, and what are some more of the meatier parts of it as it's going to benefit Arkansans at every level. Specifically, I've had several people reach out to me that have small businesses that have been self-employed that normally couldn't draw unemployment, small businesses that are trying to figure out how they're going to survive the next 30, 60, 90 days in their business, be able to be there when this COVID-19 passes by. So if you would, talk to how the bill is going to be beneficial to Arkansans.
Well, thanks. First of all, the families are getting a direct, essentially a refund from their taxes that's coming out to whoever. Each Social Security number that's paid taxes is $1,200 per adult, $500 per child. Husband and wife and 2 children then would get about $3,400 if their family income is below $150,000. So it's a very generous package. It's not tied to working, so someone who's retired also would get that payment. So first of all, families are going to get direct payments to help them through the next 2 months of this public health crisis. Secondly, unemployment insurance is available for self-employed, sole proprietors, and independent contractors in addition to employees. That's never been done before. That's not typical. Also, the amount of money for unemployment has been increased in the bill. So it's a more generous unemployment benefit for people between now and July, repeat July. The most important part of the bill, though, I believe, relates to trying to keep all of our businesses in business. So a new program has been set up for all the small businesses in the country that has an SBA guaranteed loan that's forgivable for about 8 weeks of expenses here, paying rent, paying mortgages, making payroll payments. All this is critically important. And that money is delivered, Kim, through the banking system. So small businesses, which includes independent contractors, self-employed people, sole proprietors, can go to their bank and request one of these payroll protection loans with an SBA guarantee.
So will the banking industry then be the point of contact for people to go to, whoever they have their banking relationship with? Will that be where people should go? Because I know the websites are overloaded, sometimes
Yes.
crash. Where's
This
the
is
best
not a
place?
this is not a direct loan from the SBA. These are loans from the banking system. So the best place for a small business person to start is with their bank. There are SBA disaster loans that are available on the disaster loan part of the SBA.gov website. People can certainly apply for one of those. But a typical small business person that needs liquidity financing for the next couple of months that has a good business, I think, in my view, would be better off going to their local bank and asking for one of these payroll protection credits.
Just out of curiosity, the money coming down to the banks, it's only advanced as the banks justify getting the money. It's not like all that money was parked at the bank, and if people don't come in and get it, the bank receives the benefits of it, correct?
No, the bank is getting a guarantee of the loan that's made. They're not getting any money. The banks don't get any money. The small businesses apply for a loan, let's say for $100,000 to cover the next 8 weeks for a small business. The bank lends them the $100,000, and the bank receives 100% SBA guarantee on that loan. Businesses also have an opportunity to not pay payroll taxes, the 6.2% of payroll. That will save businesses a lot of money. If they keep people on the payroll, they're also eligible to earn a tax credit for keeping people on the payroll and getting a tax refund. And finally, small businesses that owe money for 2019 can defer those payments until July 15th. So there's really in this bill a lot of support for our small businesses, which is defined, as you and I have talked, as sole proprietors, self-employed people, and independent contractors. They've broadened that definition.
Which is good because, the calls that I'm getting, I'm sure you're getting, are from like the beauty shop operators that when the governor issues a directive and basically stops their business model, the tattoo shops, the beauty shop operators, the one or two pop stores that still have to carry it. So the program is designed to help truly what we would refer to as small businesses.
This is a Main Street-driven project, always has been. Marco Rubio from Florida really worked well with us in the House on designing this. And, I think the barbershop's a great example. If you're the barber and you're paying the lease that you have in the shopping center on your barbershop, but you lease 3 other chairs to other barbers, both that owner of the shop, quote unquote, who pays that rent, he's a sole proprietor, he can get help. And then those barbers that rent the chair from the quote owner of the barber shop, they too are eligible for help under this plan.
Question I was asked, let me rattle off a couple questions here real quick.
Yeah.
The $1,200, is it tax-free or will taxes be held out of it?
I think it's tax-free is my reading of it.
Okay. And then the second one was people that are receiving Social Security or other VA benefits, will they be available for the stimulus check as well?
They are.
Okay, good. Now, there were some things that, here's one, questions as far as voting for a bill that was 3 times larger than the Obama bill bailout, and why wasn't funding included for the $25 million, or for the wall, but, $25 million for the Kennedy Center and other projects. So how much?
Go ahead. This is a bill for an economic crisis that's produced by global health pandemic. It's never happened in Americans' modern history. It's not a bailout. It is an economic preservation bill for small businesses that are being forced to close by government edict in order to save tens of thousands of lives in this country. So I don't really view it, quote unquote, as a bailout or a slush fund or all this other these Democratic talking points. It's a short-term bill with triggers that sunsets every one of these provisions. Some of these provisions sunset in June, some sunset December 31, but it's purely an economic preservation bill. Yes, the Democrats got some goofy things in the bill, like $24 million extra dollars for the Kennedy Center. But we got to get We have to get 60 votes in the Senate, and the Democrats control the House of Representatives. So if people don't like the way the bill was designed, they can help take the House back this fall and let the Republicans be in charge of writing all these measures. But we work with the Trump administration to make this. I hope some of this money, if it isn't even spent, because the economy over the next 3 or 4 months rebounds in an effective way. Wall money. The president has the wall money for 2019 and 2020, and he's spending it, and he got $3.5 billion more wall money by reprogramming money. So this bill wasn't about building the wall. This bill was about saving lives and saving businesses. So it doesn't address the wall one way or the other.
And I'm going to give you a perspective, and you straighten me out if my perspective is wrong. And I hope, on a sidebar, I hope that there's some economic accountability that is leveraged toward China, who it seems was negligent as far as sending out the warning signal soon enough. That's another program. But it would appear to me that the $2.2 trillion package, that $2.2 trillion was going to be spent one way or the other because of the economic impact that was happening around us, whether anybody liked it or not. And what y'all did in the $2.2 trillion, which, yes, has added to our national debt. And yes, that is unfortunate, but it was going to get spent one way or the other. And what y'all did through this bill was just structure how it was going to get spent, either through businesses going out, not being able to pay taxes and other things that were out of our control, or y'all brought some control to the chaos by passing a bill that said, if we're going to be $2.2 trillion in debt because business is growing out, we want to structure how that looks to make sure the people that need it get it the most. Is that a fair characterization?
I do think that's fair, and I think Mitch McConnell in the Senate, the Republican leader, and Stephen Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary, President Trump, the Republicans in the House, had a big picture design that blocked 99% of the bad ideas from the Democrats in the Senate or in the House, but some of their things got through. There were some sort of pro-union provisions in the borrowing package. There was the $24 million for the Kennedy Center. They wouldn't compromise on how to structure the unemployment insurance payment. So it was truly a bipartisan bill, but I really do have credit to Treasury Secretary Mnuchin, Majority Leader McConnell, for holding the line and structuring this with accountability directed towards helping people get back to work and killing the virus. So if we tried to minimize anything in the bill that wasn't addressing killing the virus or getting people back to work, those were the themes in the bill.
Well, I watched Senator Cotton's speech on the floor, and, he rattled off. He had sheets of paper he was throwing on the floor. You could tell, like a lot of other Republicans, frustrated. But he started going through things that, were in the initial bill or somewhere in the process of trying to be put in the bill. And it was really kind of aggravating to see. And this was what bothers me as an elected official, Congressman, that whenever it is that there's a disaster or something that has happened in the manner in which this has come about on such a short time frame, is when people want to try to slip things in, or they want to utilize it in an advantage in order to get their own self-serving interests represented in the bill.
It's madness. It's madness. I mean, Nancy Pelosi cost 4 days on this bill. We could have had this bill, instead of President Trump signing it into law on Friday afternoon, we could have signed it last Tuesday. And she didn't get anything for delaying it, except delaying it, which hurts people in the hospital, hurts small businesses, hurts our restaurants. It's just, as you say, selfish. this Bernie Sanders agenda that she tried to cram in the bill with the Green New Deal and forcing every business who gets one of these small business loans to pay a $15 minimum wage starting immediately and permanently. I mean, it was just madness. She suggested that every passenger flying on an airplane be required to receive a carbon footprint report every time they buy a ticket on how much their flying is causing carbon emissions. I mean, you can't imagine what she had in her 1,400 pages. But fortunately, cooler heads prevailed, and the irrelevant material was left out of this important measure.
Say, did y'all, you got anybody on staff, or could y'all work as a collaborative group up there? Because thank God all of our federal delegation are Republicans. Do you have the ability to pull together a summary of what they tried to put in that bill? Because I've got a website that's going to launch on April 1st.
I'll send you from Steve Scalise, the Republican whip of the House, the list of what they attempted to put in the bill. I'll email that to you.
Okay, and let's be fair, because I have a diverse listening audience. Let's be fair. Does the list have anything that the Republicans tried to slip in as well, or did y'all get that worked out so that, you know, I want to be fair here. So did the Republicans, did you have Republican colleagues or those, let me put it this way, those who call themselves Republicans, did you have them, any of them try to slip some things in as well?
Well, I'm not aware of any. I was busy spending all my time as a retired community banker working on this small business loan package and rolling back regulations that I thought were inhibiting flow of credit. So I'm not an expert in every nook and cranny of this bill and who proposed what. But from what I saw in the Senate, Senator Rubio, Senator Cotton, Senator Bozeman were working constructively on just things that do the two things I talked about, killing the virus and getting the economy back to full steam. Those were the missions. But there's no doubt in a 880-page bill that there's cats and dogs sprinkled through there. But I think for listeners, you have to understand they were minimized and it was not as big a Christmas tree as Nancy Pelosi wanted to make it.
Well, and I appreciate that. You know, as a conservative Republican, I appreciate that because, you know, when I heard Senator Cotton's speech and some of the other ones that were on there and, you know, getting the bad stuff off the tree was a good thing so the tree could be healthy to meet what the intended goals were. And speaking of the, let me ask you.
We'll get you that list.
All right, thank you. Let me ask you if any money is coming down to another areas. If you were listening on your way in or getting tuned in, had Jodianne Tripp with the Hospital Association on, and I know the governor spoke about money that's coming down to Arkansas. Fortunately, we have the appropriations within our bills to receive that money down from the federal government, which is specifically geared toward those two things you just mentioned, helping small businesses and doing what we have to do to kill the virus or treat those who have been affected by the virus. Can you speak to the details of what's coming down in the way of money to Arkansas that is going to be directed to healthcare workers and to the healthcare system of the state that's going to have to respond to this?
Yes, in the bill, there's $45 billion to FEMA. FEMA is now in charge of the response of getting PPE, personal protective equipment, out to all the major medical centers and practices and community health centers around the state. I just came from a meeting with hospital leaders here talking about PPE and ventilators. So that's coming to the states. A.J. Gary, our very capable director of emergency management here in the state, will be working with Governor Hutchinson on that. And then each state has $1.2 billion available to them for emergency purposes to fight the virus. I've spoken with the governor this morning about his plans for that. I'm sure he'll be addressing that in coming days. So there is significant health care money and support for our men and women on the front lines out there fighting this virus. And we really appreciate, my hat's off to the first responders out there who are dealing with this.
With regards to any assistance for schools, is there anything specific in the bill that would help the school system?
In schools, yes, there's a lot of various programmatic money in there to help them on distant learning, make sure they're distributing new ways to help train kids from K through 12 and even into college on health supplemental materials that can be delivered online to help teachers. There's also money in there to support certain aspects of delivery of food. So many of our families in Arkansas are dependent on school lunch. And when we say school lunch, in many of our districts, it's school breakfast, lunch, and dinner during the school year. That money is being distributed to the states. And I want to say Arkansas has been a leader. I really appreciate, particularly in Pulaski County, how all the school districts and the private charter schools have all worked together to get the school lunch program coordinated. Lots of folks volunteering. If people need an opportunity to volunteer and help, besides giving blood, they can help pack those lunches and help our food bank, because there's also money in this bill to support food bank around the country. When people are busy cooking at home and taking care of their own families, they don't they're not as generous to food banks. So we've tried to work with the major food companies around the country and make sure our food banks are taken care of as well.
I want to come back and talk about that real quick, but I got to ask you this question because I try to be fair to all my listeners. Did the senators, representatives benefit any from the bill that was passed?
No. People keep asking about, there was $25 million, that's with an M, for the whole Congress in the bill. That's so that Congress can buy more laptops and have more telephone town halls. Each member office got about $20,000 in case they needed to do more telecommuting, more laptop purchases, or more telephone town halls to serve constituents. The entire Congress is now working remotely in all 50 states, so you have 535 people, plus all their staff trying to be connected online every day. And some of that money also went to keeping the Capitol and the office building clean and sanitary for the COVID virus work around the Capitol complex. But there is no change in compensation or anything of that nature in Congress.
Very good. Let me just share with you quickly, and we're going to be down to 2 minutes now. I was on a conversation with a school superintendent. One is Karen from Bryant School District that I was on the phone with, and then another one from a friend that's in district, another part of the state. And their biggest concern right now is the expense that the schools are experiencing, because on average, like one school would feed 4,000 a day, but they're only able to get that 2,000 meals out. That's their goal to get to. It's creating a shortcome in their, in their revenues, because they're still responsible to get the 4,000 out. In the bill coming down to the schools, is there flexibility to be able to help those schools if we as a state receive that money down? Is there money to channel down to that need?
Well, in the $1.25 billion money coming to Arkansas for state and local government support, which in our state, because we're a relatively rural state, that money will come to the governor's office, and I think he has some flexibility on how to use it and be supportive around the state, and that would include in supporting schools. I don't know absolute specifically if in the education section of the appropriation, if there's something particular to that question, but I'll check it out and we'll send you a note.
Very good. I promise them I ask you because they're supporters of yours, and I know you want to help them. And I can't express enough how much I appreciate you taking time to be on the Kim Hammer Show today.
It's my honor. Let's stay in touch over the next 3 weeks, because implementation now, there'll be a lot of questions, and if people have questions, they can certainly email me at hill.house.gov, and my team will work to get their questions answered and try to be of help through this process, because the next 3 weeks will be very stressful in our health system, but it'll also be stressful as our businesses, our families attempt to access these funds and help preserve jobs around this country.
Very good.
So we're going to do it. We're unified, and we're to get everybody to put their flag out in front of their house and work together to beat this crisis.
Very good. Hey, we'll talk again, and we'll be a good conduit for factual information. We want to make sure that the rumors get hammered down real quick. And Congressman French Hill's been on the Kim Hammer Show today, and appreciate you very much joining us on the show. Let me thank our sponsors as we get out of here today: Everett GMC Buick, Edwards Food Store, Baxley Penfield Maudy, and Duck's Garage. And we appreciate those sponsors. The opinions expressed on the show are mine and mine alone. Blame me if you don't like anything I said today. Join me tomorrow at noon. I'll be bringing a message from God's Word, speaking to my church, Celine. Missionary Baptist Church down in Tull. You guys listen in, and you can watch us on Facebook if you want. We always thank our Facebook audience for watching and listening to the Kim Hammer Show. Have a great day.
DXE FM, Kamak Village, Little Rock, a Salem Media Group station, 101.1 FM. The Answer.